See, the problem I have with it is
resident contrarian.
we don't have to live in this society where not everything ends up happily ever after. So I just don't think it makes sense for all of them to make it through. Because the time of war, you're Baltimore. Who are you going to go after? Who is the person you want Harry Potter dead? But if you can't get Harry Potter, who are you going to get? People who are closest to him, the people that he loves. So one of them has to die, and there's my guarantee. Mark my words, one of them has to die.
All right.
I like it, Seth. I'm really glad Ben's not writing the books. Yeah, you have the Emerson Spartz guarantee. Harry, Ron, Hermione, none of them gonna die.
What about Jenny?
What happened to
Jenny? No, Jenny's not gonna die either because she's just wrong.
You should pay us money if you're wrong. How many?
If they do die, I am willing to. Well, I was going to shave my head, and I realized I wasn't willing to do that at all. So,
How many sausages?
I'm willing to wager something. Does anybody have any suggestions?
Sausages!
Eating sausage.
Eating sausage?
50 jumbo sausages! Like Jamie.
Sausage, I'm sure you mean like sausage links.
Yes.
Okay, so, Harry Potter, it's cool stuff. Now, people always want to know who's going to win, Harry or Voldemort. Now, we're pretty sure that Harry is going to win. I mean, like Emerson said, I like to disagree for the sake of disagreeing a lot of times. But I think J.K. Rowling won't kill him, I think. Because imagine, like I said, how many kids are going to have post-Potter depression?
Yeah. Me? Here.
So, you just can't do it.
No matter
It doesn't make sense. So, she has to keep him living. But next to whether or not Harry is going to live or die, the other number one question we've been asked, for those of you who read the website, you probably have formed your own opinion on this, is whether or not Snape is good or evil, or that he's out for himself. Now, raise your hand if you think Snape is evil and is working for Lord Voldemort.
Well, he is evil, but he's not working for Lord Voldemort.
Now, how do you think he's working for himself? In the book, we discuss pretty in-depth why Snape is a good person, and I'll let Emerson detail a few of those reasons for you.
I would agree that he is, in fact, working for the Order, and I will admit that I did not always believe this. For a long time, I was the only holdout on the staff who really still thought that he was bad, because everyone argued, oh, it's just a big setup, I thought this whole, a backstabber to the, the nth degree thing was just, I thought it was stupid and J.K. Rowling wouldn't do it, but upon further reflection, and when I really started examining the evidence, there was really only one conclusion, and that is that Dumbledore had Snape kill him. And it was important to the plot for many reasons. The main one being that Dumbledore, of course, had to die. Like, I really believe he had to die. I mean, the book is Voldemort versus Harry, not Dumbledore versus Voldemort. And with Papa Dumbledore still around calling the shots and, looming over all of Harry's decisions, Harry really he'd never be forced to grow into his role as, savior of the world kind of thing.
Now, I like to look at this in chronological order. At the beginning, listen to me here. At the beginning of Half-Blood Prince, Snape is in his house. Bellatrix and Narcissa show up, and they start talking to him and all these things, and Narcissa makes him do the Unbreakable Vow, okay? And his task ultimately is that if Draco cannot kill Dumbledore, then he has to, okay? So now, all of a sudden, he's put in this position where he can't sacrifice his own position with the Death Eaters, because if he says, no, I'm not going to do it, then it's going to look pretty fishy that he won't kill Dumbledore, particularly when Dumbledore is on the side that he's supposed to be going against. And Narcissa drills him on it, Bellatrix drills him on it, saying, well, you had Harry underneath your watch all these years, all these things, and Snape pretty much says, well, don't you think that Voldemort had asked me the same questions, and how could I fool Voldemort? The most accomplished gentleman of all time, blah, blah, blah. And again, the book progresses, and Dumbledore, we hear, I think it's Hagrid that overhears Dumbledore and Snape saying that he doesn't want to do it anymore. Now, what we think you're talking about is Dumbledore said, you have to kill me. You have to do it. It is your duty to do so. And Snape saying, well, I don't want to kill you. All those type of things. Then we get to the scene where Draco pretty much shows his incompetence. He falls down. Snape has to step in. Now, there are two things here. This scene is very detailed. One reason that people think Snape is evil is because he has a look of revulsion on his face. Why would he be so angry? Well, you see, he's pissed. He's mad at Dumbledore. excuse me, he is very angry at Dumbledore because Dumbledore is making him do something that he really doesn't want to do. Now, Dumbledore is the kind of person who says, death is but the next greatest adventure. Now, why would someone who thinks death is the next greatest adventure be pleading for his life? Now, what we think is that he really wasn't pleading for his life. When he says, "Severus, please," what he's really saying is, "Severus, please kill me. Please do what we were talking about," rather than just, standing back and letting nothing happen. And see, the way Dumbledore looks at it is that Snape's this... Sorry, it was a long ride. I fell asleep halfway. The way he looks at it is that Snape's position with the Death Eaters is far more important than anything Dumbledore can provide. So if Dumbledore has to be sacrificed in order for the good of the ultimate mission, then that's what's necessary. Now, is there anybody here who can disagree with that?
Yeah, no, seriously, we're spoiling for a fight. Come on, someone tell us how wrong we are.
Do it. You're wrong.
Nobody.
See, last night there was a brave soul in Exton who got a little out of hand, but yeah, she went at it with us for a while, but we took her to school in the end. So yeah, Snape was really an interesting character because what we see time and time again is, we think he's evil. Book 1 opens and they are convinced, the trio is convinced that he is the one who is trying to steal the Sorcerer's Stone. And what ends up happening, it turns out that he's been trying to save Harry all along. So they think he's a bad guy, and he turns out to be a good guy. Now, Book 6 comes along, and all of a sudden at the end we think he's a bad guy again. That's just a little too much. Now, Snape Harry has been under his watch. Why couldn't the excuses that he gives Voldemort and the excuses that he gives Bellatrix are simply, they're lame. That's the best way to describe him, because he really could kill Harry if he wanted to. I mean, if he could have kidnapped Harry, he had all his years with Harry underneath his watch, and he did nothing, and it's because he's working for the Order. Now, Snape is a complex character, and I'll let Emerson explain, because we think he was in love with a certain lady.
There's no evidence? Does anybody want to take the floor? Yeah?
They call it his worst memory when James is picking on him and they turn his left upside down and then Lily sticks up for him and she calls her a mudblood. I think, what he's saying is why it's his worst memory. It's because he remembers that today he screwed up today and now Lily remembers.
Very good point.
We agree. Snape's worst memory is his worst memory because he just insulted the girl that he loved. And I will agree that most of the evidence is circumstantial. And we really can't say that it is unequivocally Snape loved Lily. We do believe that there's a lot of evidence suggesting it, and maybe a lot of us do kind of want to believe it, so we see things that may not actually be there. But a lot of pieces fit together. It makes a lot more sense.
Hey, and part of the reason we think that, Snape always ends up sticking up for Harry ultimately. I mean, sticking up for the way he saved his life several times. Look at the end of Book 6, where Snape and Draco are fleeing the Hogwarts grounds. Harry comes up behind him and says, "You coward, how could you do such a thing?" and tries to perform an unforgivable curse on him. And Snape gets really mad then. And the first reason we think that Snape gets really mad is because when Harry calls him a coward, he doesn't understand what Snape has done for the good of the Order of the Phoenix. So it ticks him off that Harry called him a coward. And if you think about it, Snape could have turned around and stunned Harry and taken him off to Lord Voldemort if he wanted to. And he chose not to at that time, which also is another thing. Well, if you have this kid right there, you're going back to Lord Voldemort anyways, why wouldn't you grab him right then and there? Now, the way I look at it is that Snape sort of has a mixed perception of Harry, because when he looks at Harry, he sees Harry's father, the one that made fun of him all those years, the one that caused him all that pain and torture. But at the same time, he sees Harry's eyes. He sees Harry's mother there also. So in a way, he's torn. And part of the reason we think that that Snape was in love with Lily is because Voldemort offered Lily a pardon. He said, "Step aside, let me kill the kid, and you will live." And Lily decided not to, which ultimately protected Harry from dying from the Avada Kedavra curse. So that pretty much right there demonstrates that there was something special going on. And we think that Snape made some kind of deal with Voldemort to prevent him from killing Lily Potter because of the fact that he had such strong feelings.